This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
نجا الأمير محمد بن نايف بن عبد العزيز مساعد وزير الداخلية السعودية من محاولة اغتيال قام بها.
Prince Ahmed bin Nayef, assistant to the Saudi Interior Minister, escaped an assassination attempt by a wanted terrorist. The terrorist had announced that he wanted to surrender himself in the presence of the prince, but as he was being searched, he detonated an explosive device that was planted on him. The Saudi king, Abdullah bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, went to the hospital as soon as he learned of the news to make sure that the prince was okay. Prince Mohammed bin Nayef was slightly injured and no one else was hurt except for the perpetrator who was killed.
Thank God.
May God prolong your life. I was receiving people, but one of the people blew himself up. Thank God, I'm okay. Now that I have seen you, I am even better. May God prolong your life. Everything is okay. My family is okay too. This will only increase my determination. God willing, we will eliminate the terrorist cells.
Thank God with His will we can do anything. Thank God you're okay and that nothing happened to you. Everything that you've done for the sake of religion and the homeland is appreciated. But you took the risk. You should have let them search him.
I took the risk. I said that no one should touch him. May God prolong your life.
Did this happen in your own home?
Yes, in my own home after dinner.
Did this happen in your home?
Yes, in my own home.
Predictions that were made a few weeks ago turned out to be accurate. Last Monday, the United Iraqi Alliance announced that Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki is refusing to join the Shiite-dominated alliance and that he will form his own party. However, al-Maliki's absence was not the only surprise. Another surprise was the diverse list of groups that joined the United Iraqi Alliance, which was primarily a Shiite coalition in the past. This is proof that all former coalitions that ran in the former Iraqi elections have changed.
لخارطة التحالفات السياسية العراقية الجديدة معالم رئيسية يمكن تحديدها كما يلي.
The new political alliances in Iraq can be summed up in the following ways. The Kurdish alliance has 130 parliament seats. The Shiite alliance has 158 seats. Sunni parties have 59 seats and the national forces have 25 seats.
القوى الوطنية وعدد مقاعدهم في البرلمان.
First, the Kurdish alliance, represented in the change movement, is challenging the control of the two major parties. The Islamic Party of Iraq separated from their Kurdish alliance and has established an independent party. Al-Maliki's visit to Kurdistan will change his party's relations with the Kurds. Second, the United Iraqi Alliance made what was described as a political surprise by announcing it will not include Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. Al-Maliki has separated from the United Iraqi Alliance and established the State of Law Party. Al-Maliki laid out conditions that would need to be met for him to remain in the Shiite-dominated alliance, but he reached a dead end when the rest of the alliance rejected these conditions. The United Iraqi Alliance is trying to include influential Sunni figures such as Abu Risha and Fawaz al-Jarba.
المجلس الأعلى، الصدريون، حزب الإصلاح، حزب المؤتمر.
The most prominent forces that have remained within the United Iraqi Alliance are the Supreme Council for the Islamic Revolution in Iraq, the Sadrists, the Reform Party, the National Congress Party, Badr Organization, and the Sahwa Councils. Third, Sunni parties had so many disputes that the Islamic Party of Iraq and the Sahwa Councils became enemies. Their alliance collapsed when Alayan united with Mashadani and Nadim al-Jabari. They hope that they can also join forces with Saleh al-Mutlaq and Ayad Alawi. The National Accordance Front, which was established by Ahmed Abdul Ghaffar al-Samarai, includes new Shiite faces. Third, the Islamic Party of Iraq has not announced its position so far, but it relies on the Sawa councils, which it helped establish. Fourth, there is no national force, which includes non-sectarian groups and non-religious parties. They include traditional politicians and religious figures outside the religious institution, technocrats, and the leftist parties such as the Iraqi Communist Party and the Iraqi list of Iyad Alawi.
Amidst an atmosphere of sadness and strict security measures, an official and local funeral was held this morning for Abdel Aziz al-Hakim, head of the Supreme Council of the Islamic Revolution in Iraq and the head of the Shiite-dominated United Iraqi Alliance. He was later buried in Najaf City. President of Iraq Jalal Talabani, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, numerous officials and Shiite religious leaders, as well as a large number of Shiites and mourners attended the ceremony. Meanwhile, the death toll continues to rise on Iraqi streets. According to a statement made by the U.S. military, 2 American soldiers were killed by explosive devices yesterday evening in the eastern part of the capital, Baghdad. This has raised the number of deaths of American soldiers to 4,336 since 2003.
Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki is expected to call for the formation of an international criminal court in the case of last Wednesday's bombing. This will force Syria to hand over Iraqi terror suspects to the Iraqi judiciary system. The suspects will be tried in the chamber of the Iraqi parliament, where they will receive a fair sentence.
In order to pursue the suspects and hold them accountable, the victims who suffered losses as a result of the bombing must file complaints with the Iraqi High Criminal Court.
The political and security showdown between Iraq and Syria is heading to the chambers of the International Criminal Court. This news comes after Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki called for the creation of an international investigative tribunal in order to force Syria to hand over sought-after Iraqi suspects. Al-Maliki instructed the Iraqi Ministries of Interior and Justice to prepare the appropriate files and supporting documents pertaining to the bombing case. Al-Maliki also instructed his foreign ministry to launch diplomatic efforts to win the support of the international community. With this, al-Maliki may get the support he needs for the creation of the International Criminal Court, parallel to that which was held in the case of the assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik al-Hariri or the case that was held for Darfur.
We are trying to spare our relations with Syria. We must not let our relations with Syria deteriorate or be severed because it's not in the best interest of either country. Having said that, we expect our brothers in Syria to show positive and serious cooperation with the Iraqi government in this matter.
The legal steps for the creation of the International Criminal Court must be launched inside Iraq. This process includes the activation of counter-terrorism laws in the country, as well as the filing of class action lawsuits with the Iraqi High Criminal Court by victims of the recent bombing. In addition, the Iraqi state prosecutor must file summons for the transfer of the case to the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Iraq's judiciary has called on all witnesses to cooperate with the appropriate authorities and provide them with the evidence needed to secure an indictment, especially against terror cells backed by Syria.
The file on Syria and its government must be made available to the judiciary. This is the first legal step to be taken in order to indict the suspects on terrorism charges by the foreign and finance ministries in Iraq.
According to politicians and legal experts, al-Maliki's demand for an international criminal court will likely go smoothly at the UN Security Council, especially considering that Syria doesn't have a good reputation in the international community. Syria has been implicated in several international cases, including the Lebanese issue as well as the Turkish-Kurdish file. In addition, the suspects implicated in the bombing incident have previously received warrants for their arrests by Interpol, but Syria offered them protection.
After reaching deadlock with Syria, the Iraqi government has no choice but to seek help from the international community. The Iraqi government is heading to the International Criminal Court, carrying with it all the files and corroborative documents that support Iraq's case. I believe that the Iraqi government has sufficient evidence to convince the international community to move forward with the case.
The International Criminal Court may have the final word in the case, which may in turn stop Syria from sponsoring terrorism in Iraq and harboring terror suspects. Who will put an end to this continual deterioration in the relations between Syria and Iraq? Observers believe that Iraq has shown a goodwill gesture towards Syria. Now, Syria must act and seek good relations with its neighbors, especially regarding the control of its borders, with the exception of its border strip along the occupied city of Golan. From Baghdad, Amjad Talia, Iraqiya.
Tens of thousands of Palestinians were able to worship at the first Friday prayers of the month of Ramadan in the blessed Aqsa Mosque, despite the restrictions and checkpoints that Israel placed at the entrance and around the city of Jerusalem.
Tens of thousands of Israeli occupation soldiers have been stationed around Jerusalem's Haram al-Sharif Mosque and the Old City, and have prevented West Bank residents who are younger than 50 years of age from entering Jerusalem.
Details with our correspondent in occupied Jerusalem, Shireen Abu Akla.
Standing at the checkpoints placed at Jerusalem's entrance were thousands of Palestinians waiting for their turn to enter the city to attend prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is a day that they wait all year for, despite restrictions that stand as an obstacle between residents of the West Bank and Jerusalem. Israel talks about accommodations this year. However, the road between the northern West Bank and Jerusalem passes through Qalandia. Before that, there are numerous checkpoints that require several hours of waiting, women and Muslims worn out from all the waiting.
Lord, please free us and take us out of this situation that we're in. Please, God. Here, look, 72. Look, 72 years old. I was born in the 1940s.
I'm 75 years old. I was born in 1936.
I'm even older than what it says on my ID. I'm older than 72, and they won't allow me to enter.
The suffering of the worshippers does not end after entering Jerusalem. It's actually just the beginning. Here, thousands of occupation forces and Israeli police officers are stationed on the streets leading to the Old City. A number of Israeli checkpoints remain in sight. They don't allow private vehicles to enter, and worshippers end up walking several kilometers to the Haram al-Sharif Mosque in Jerusalem.
Yesterday I left Ram. We reached the checkpoint. The line went very far out. You wouldn't believe the humiliation. You should see the sight of the people standing inside the tall metal fences. So basically we left and we couldn't enter Jerusalem. We found out about some cars that were taking people on a long alternative back road route, which cost us 3 times as much. We took this alternative route hoping to enter Jerusalem, but we couldn't enter.
At the gate of the Old City, they allow people to enter based on the color of their ID cards. Palestinians holding blue ID cards are allowed to enter, unlike the West Bank residents carrying green or orange IDs, unless they are of old age. Prayer time is near and life continues in Jerusalem, despite all the occupation's measures.
This is what makes us happy and excited. We say happy holidays and thank God.
If the Israeli side was aware of what Jerusalem meant, and if they really wanted peace, then they would make peace. But the occupiers don't see anyone but themselves, and they want Jerusalem to be theirs only. Therefore, there will be no peace or calm as long as the occupation maintains these standards.
Israel boasts of providing accommodations, but in fact they are confiscating the right to worship by choosing who will pray and who will be deprived of praying in Jerusalem. Surely, to push the political process forward, Israel has obligations to fulfill beyond just taking small steps here and there. Shireen Abu Akla, Jazeera, occupied Jerusalem.
Hi, I'm Cindy Im. Did you know that Mosaic, the show that you're watching, is almost completely viewer-supported? This is the one time of the year that we raise money specifically for Mosaic. With that support, we can continue our uncensored reporting through the end of the year. Our goal is $200,000 and we still have a long way to go. We know we can do it because we know how much our viewers value Mosaic. So when you're done watching this episode, consider making a donation to keep programs like Mosaic alive. Thank you.
The village of Beit Surik, like other towns and villages in northwest Jerusalem, is suffering from the apartheid separation wall and the land grab policy which aims to Judify the city of Jerusalem, and also suffers from what is referred to as the Greater Jerusalem Project. 8,000 acres of land have been confiscated from this town. More details.
Abu Iyad, send my greetings to the land. Please bring me back a grapevine from inside. May God punish them for this.
Sometimes people laugh to get over their problems. Perhaps the smiles on the faces of Beit Surik villagers are hiding the grief that they feel inside. The same can be said about other villages adjacent to the wall, which causes the greatest deal of Palestinian grief. In fact, it can no longer be considered a village because over 8,000 acres of land were stripped from the village.
I swear only the Lord cares about us. Where are we going to look? We lost 40 to 50 acres, not just 1 or 2 acres. It was planted with olive trees, berries, and grape leaves. Where do we go? We thought we would continue to live in our land, but they don't let us go to our land to maintain it anymore.
I've been working on my land for 80 years, and they took my land in 5 seconds and told me to leave. This is what I know, but you can ask all other people who may know more things than I do about our village.
For 8 years, people of this town have stood at this gate to enter their land, which is adjacent to the Misferet settlement. Every day they are pushed away with the same response, that they will not be allowed to enter. Once they were able to break the lock on the first of 3 gates that separates them from their land, until the occupation soldiers beat them until they left. It's as if the Israelis don't want the land to recognize its true owners.
Just like the gate was broken, the other gate will also be broken, God willing. There is no way. Despite all attempts to seek justice through Israeli court decisions and all the legal means that human society knows of, they have failed. In brief, Israel's decision is ethnic cleansing and prevents Palestinian farmers from accessing their land. There is also the decision to take over and steal the land to prevent any Palestinian from entering.
We are here today to tell the Israelis that the wall does not protect them or the Palestinians. The wall just takes land and divides us. It puts Palestinians here and Israelis there, and there's no way that we'll have peace like this. The only thing that will bring us security is peace.
3,500 people live in the village, and a large percentage of them farm, and a large part of that depends on accessing the land. However, with this confiscation, more than 2/3 of Beit Surik's residents will be left without a source of income after the theft of their land. They sit on the outskirts every day waiting for the wall, decisions, Judification, and 3 gates to disappear. Israel is trying to redefine its borders. Therefore, this decision seizes thousands of acres of Palestinian land through the wall, which causes the true owners of the land to stay behind the wall. They are the residents of the village of Beit Surik, who can do nothing but sit on the doorstep of their land, hoping that they will catch a scent of their lands while they wait for their chance to return. Beit Surik, northwest of Jerusalem. Ajwa Jaradat, Palestine TV.
Thousands of police and security officials deployed in and around Jerusalem today in efforts to prevent violence from breaking out during the first Friday prayers of Ramadan. Police arrested 5 Israeli Arabs and Palestinians who tried to attack security officials. IBA's Eli Wagelender has more in this report.
Some 90,000 people took part in Ramadan prayers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount today. Israeli authorities eased restrictions for Palestinians from the West Bank, allowing men over 50 and women over 45 to enter the site. The restrictions did not apply to Palestinians who live in East Jerusalem who hold Israeli residency rights or Muslim citizens of Israel. From early this morning, long lines of people could be seen at the Qalandia checkpoint into Jerusalem. Thousands of extra police were deployed in Jerusalem ahead of the prayers, with most of the officers being stationed in and around the old city. The heavy police presence was meant to prevent violence from breaking out as in years past. Still, police arrested a handful of Palestinian and Israeli Arabs. One of the men, a resident of the Isawiya neighborhood in East Jerusalem, attacked a police officer, lightly injuring him after being asked to undergo a security check at the lion's gate. In addition, a Rahat man was detained after being caught in possession of a knife, and a Gaza resident was also arrested for being in the area without a permit. In related news, Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas took to the streets of Ramallah last night after breaking the Ramadan fast. Onlookers watched him eat ice cream. Markets in Gaza were also full of shoppers last night celebrating the holiday. The Muslim holy month of Ramadan continues until the middle of September. Ellie Wogelanter, IBA News.
The Obama administration hopes to announce a resumption of Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. But Israel's ever-expanding network of settlements seems to stand in the way. Will a new push for settlement freeze succeed? Or will Netanyahu's delay tactics prevail? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
UN resolutions, the Oslo Agreement, and negotiations over Israeli withdrawal from Palestinian territories occupied in 1967 have all been replaced by buzzwords such as settlement freeze and confidence-building measures. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has skillfully managed to get the international community spinning its wheels over issues that have been dealt with decades ago. During a recent press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, said,
"Stopping the construction of settlements plays a key role within this process. Progress must be made, and I once again stress that the German government believes time is running out."
Her comments came after Netanyahu held talks with George Mitchell, the U.S. Middle East envoy, amid tension between Washington and Israel over the issue of settlements. Israel's ever-expanding network of settlements in the occupied territories is viewed by many members of the international community as the most significant obstacle to the creation of a viable, sovereign Palestinian state. The settlement freeze idea was born in 1977 after the Camp David summit. In a letter to President Jimmy Carter, then Prime Minister Menachem Begin offered a 3-month moratorium on establishing new settlements rather than the longer moratorium preferred by Washington. The freeze idea was also raised by President George Bush Sr. without success in the context of a U.S. agreement to provide loan guarantees to Israel in the early 90s. The idea was also prominent among the confidence-building measures sought by the Palestinians before and after the Madrid Conference in 1991. The freeze was also reiterated by the Clinton administration, but was watered down when the provision for natural growth was added to it. The saga continued under George W. Bush, and lest we forget it, it was George Mitchell who was dispatched to the region in 2001 to discuss settlement freeze and evacuation recommendations by the Sharm el-Sheikh Fact-Finding Committee, which has called for the cessation of all settlement activity as a key element in constructing a viable diplomatic process. The saga continues again. George Mitchell is back, and we now hear that Israel and the United States are closing the gaps over the contentious issue of West Bank settlement construction, according to what senior American officials who are intimately involved in the matter recently told the Israeli Haaretz newspaper. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has resisted U.S. and international calls for a total freeze on construction, arguing that the Bush administration had acquiesced to continued Israeli settlement activity in large blocks that are likely to be annexed by Israel in any future agreement with the Palestinians. Mr. Netanyahu has also been peddling half-baked truths about the status of Jewish settlements and the squeezing of Palestinian Jerusalemites.
A unified Jerusalem is the capital of the Jewish people and the State of Israel, and our sovereignty over it will not be shaken. This means that the citizens of Jerusalem can buy apartments anywhere in the city. This has been and will continue to be Israel's policy. During the last several years, hundreds of apartments have been bought or rented out to Arabs in West Jerusalem, and we have not intervened in that.
What Mr. Netanyahu failed to mention is the fact that almost all land inside Israel's 1948 borders, including West Jerusalem, has been registered as state land managed by a body known as Israel Lands Authority, which does not sell to Palestinians, especially residents of East Jerusalem who do not hold Israeli citizenship. But then again, Mr. Netanyahu continues his delay tactics following in the footsteps of his mentor, the former Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, who shortly after the Madrid conference admitted that he had intended to play delaying tactics at the negotiating table for 10 years while accelerating settlement building and accomplishing facts on the ground, thus creating an irreversible situation that even the peace process would not overcome. His words cannot be more true today. Are we in for another round of 10-year delay tactics, talking about settlement freeze? I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mir. You can also follow my updates on Twitter.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.